Welcome back to the show. It is Rubbin Minds. And of course, we're having an amazing time right here. So I was having a conversation with my friend, and we're talking about how a couple of years back, if you open a tin of sardine, you would literally see 4 fishes. But now, open a tin of sardine, you would see just 2 fishes. And the friend was even joking that, oh, he once opened a tin of sardine and he saw pomo, like we call it in the local parlance, inside of it. This clearly shows a decline in terms of productivity and, of course, development. Now, the discourse for this particular segment is, what exactly is Nigeria's currency to development? The answer is very simple. It's the youth. If a government empowers their youth population, there would be a spiral growth. The economy will blossom and, of course, would have a better nation. Nigeria, according to the 2006 census population count, of course, the youth constituted 70% of the population. That simply means that we have about 126 million youths. That is literally the population of South Africa, Rwanda, and Ghana combined together. And we're still dragging jollof with them. With me in the studio, I have 2 amazing people. Amin, the Chief Executive Officer and the founder of Everything Arts. And of course, we have Mofe Ade. How are you doing, sir?
Doing great.
He's the managing partner of Everything Art. So I'll start with you, Amin. First of all, the name Amin. It's the same pronunciation,
Yes.
but different spelling.
That's right.
How come?
It's a Hausa Arabic name. With my last name is Yoruba. My grandfather took the A off of Amina and gave me Amin. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure your grandfather wanted to break the stereotype.
Yeah. So on my resume, nobody knows whether I'm a man or woman until they meet me.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yes.
great. How are you doing, sir?
Doing great.
Mofe?
You, Hero?
I'm good, fantastic. So, as a nation, we've been talking about empowering the youths.
Yeah.
And we thank God that, of course, with the Not Too Young to Run bill and several other youth empowerment programs, we're sort of having a headway.
Right.
But let's be very realistic. The youth has not really been empowered.
Right.
You know. So how, beyond oil, how can we build capacity as a nation with regards to youth empowerment?
So I feel that with the youth need to understand that each of us have a duty and a call to take action in our own little corner of the world and build capacity through our human capital and build systems in place where we are adding to the communities around us. It doesn't have to be anything grand or lofty. Right where you are, what are you doing to create a better environment? It could be on your street. If you see that there's a lot of trash on the street every day, what are you doing? Are you picking it up or are you contributing to it? We don't have to wait for some mighty power to take action. It's the little steps that will help us empower ourselves first, and then we can empower everybody else. Just like on an airplane, if a plane wants to crash, before you can help anyone else, you have to put on your mask. You have to put on your mask first. So what are we doing within first before we go outside to try to empower others?
Fantastic. We'll get back to you and we'll talk about your organization. Mofe, you're a very creative person. I was going through your profile when I was doing my background check, and I must say I'm very impressed. So now, as a creative person, what role do you think the creative industry has to play in empowering the youth?
The creative industry makes up a very great percentage of the youth. I like to say that most of us are creative within. It's just the ones that tend to stumble upon it and discover it and actually build upon it. Now, as a creative industry, there are many stages and there are many different moving parts that make the industry successful and in effect the whole country successful. For instance, let's take a look at Nollywood. Nollywood is one of the biggest film industries in the world, and we have many people doing great movies. However, we see there are different problems when it comes to distribution of movies. We see there are problems when it comes to piracy, and we can see that stakeholders in those key places can do things to make sure that those barriers are removed so that people in that industry can make more money, which in fact will help the nation's economy become better. So you can see that there's a job for every stakeholder, creative industry in any place, movies, art, anything.
True. Fantastic. And also, the federal government has granted, I think, about 30 million naira loans for creative filmmakers.
Yes.
So for those that do not have the information, you can actually go and access that loan and make great movies and pay back your loan, please.
Yes.
I mean.
Yes.
So everything in art started as a hashtag.
As a hashtag, yes.
Can you tell us about that experience, how something started like a movement and it evolved into a full-blown company?
Yes. So in 2017, I was in Paris, and anyone that follows me on Instagram at Everything That Art, you know that I love art, I love creativity, I love to think outside of the box. And so I basically created Everything That Art, the hashtag, which is now trademarked, as a call to action. You know, what is it that you see? Just taking what you see every day and appreciating the art and the beauty of it. And that could mean art on a wall, but it didn't have to end there. It could be your environment. You know, when you see a keke passing by, is that art to you?
Yeah.
Your relationships in business and leadership, all of that. So that hashtag turned into a community of right now we're at 28,000 people.
Amazing.
The hashtag even has more uses than I have followers.
Wow.
Every day people are using the hashtag. They connected with it, and it was a call to action. And then we created a community out of that. It happened very serendipitously, very organically. And that community is what you know today as the Tribe Called ENA. So I want to give all of them a shout out.
Okay.
So Tribe Called ENA is full of people in Nigeria and outside of Nigeria, full of promise. It's a global community. These are people who are entrepreneurs, freelancers, engineers, architects, people who are still in school, people who have started their own businesses because of the tools that we've taught them. So it went from a hashtag to a community to Mofe and I teaching digital courses and giving them that power to say, you know what, I don't have to wait on any entity. I can literally take action where I am and grow. So
And
a lot of them...
What have been your support system?
Our support system is us. We're a community. So it takes a village. So each of us support each other. I learn from the community. They're teaching me. I teach them. I also have a great network of mentors and things like that have seen what we're doing and decided to support us in different ways.
Has the government supported you in any way?
We haven't really approached them, but we would love to have, if I can say this on TV, we would love to have the new governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. We would love to have him, meet with us and let him know what we're doing here in Lagos, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in South Africa, and Kenya, globally. We have a global community. So we would love to have a conversation with him, but we haven't approached them. And why is that? We strongly believe that we are the government, each of us. When each of us do what we're supposed to do, if we will happen to take office, then this would be a greater Nigeria.
And that takes me to the next question, which I would direct to Mofe.
Yeah.
We live in times where we highly depend on the government to do things for us. Yes. That's why there's a cliche word on the streets: if anything happens, it's Buhari's fault.
Right.
Let's say if you don't fix your gate and your gate goes off and maybe your gate has a rust, it's Buhari's fault. If your spouse breaks up with you, it's Buhari's fault. So how do we move? What can the youth do beyond the government? How can we focus on building ourselves? How can we, gain true independence from, what the government hands down to us as youths?
I strongly believe that we're in the best generation ever. We have something called the internet. I was having a conversation with Amin a few weeks ago that imagine if Leonardo da Vinci was alive when the internet was. You can imagine what he could have done.
Incredible.
We as Nigerians also have access to that internet. And on that internet, you have resources that we could not access or even dream of accessing hundreds of years ago. Now, the same amount of time that it would take you to watch a whole season of a movie, you could use it to watch a course teaching you vital skills that you require in your business and to build your brand. That's just one part. Also, we need consistency. Anybody that is doing anything needs to be consistent. And a problem that we can see is that most people, just as you said, blame the government for everything. However, you cannot just pick up a skill today and tomorrow you say money is not coming in. Oh, I need to find another avenue. Oh, the government is not trying for me. Why are they not giving me grants? Why are they not giving me access? You need to figure out things for yourself. And just as Amin said, we're a community. And by the time everybody figures out things themselves, we can all come together and build the Nigeria that we desire.
Fantastic. But if I'm to come to the defense of some people, the Nigerian society has structured our minds in such a way that it's very difficult for us to break off a particular routine. So here is the format. Here is the routine. You go to school, you graduate, you get good grades, and you get a job. Now, not everybody, the school system does not necessarily teach us how to be independent. as far as I'm concerned, entrepreneurship should be taught from primary school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, so now for people like that already have a fixed mindset as to what to expect, for people that have the mindset that they always have to have handouts, how do they break out of that mindset?
So I just want to say, more importantly, I grew up in the United States, and don't think that it's only in Nigeria where we're not learning entrepreneurship in school. In grade school, we didn't learn that either. In America, usually you have to, maybe in college, some business courses, but it's usually happening maybe in an MBA program. So it's not it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere. It's not that it's just Nigeria. So I just want to make that point.
Okay.
As far as like breaking the mold, I think access and exposure really make a difference. And access doesn't mean you have to leave your country. You don't have to leave your environment to be exposed. You can read. You can check out the internet, as Mofe said. You don't have to get on a plane to understand what is happening in the tech world, for instance. You can literally Google. We use Google every day. It's the beauty of our generation. So when we say that, we're stuck in a mindset, I think mentally you can entrap yourself mentally without even knowing it. So we have to get outside of that. And then that exposure is just having conversations. We're here having conversations with you. We're not celebrities, people don't know who we are, but having those conversations with you, having conversations with people you don't know, asking questions will help you get out of that rut. It's not a lofty idea to say, ask questions. When you don't know something, you ask. I think Albert Einstein said, to do something over and over and over again and expect a different result is insanity.
True,
and that's
true.
what happens. We keep doing the same thing and we expect a different result. So I think that we should just ask questions.
I wanted to say, what of the people that cannot necessarily afford the internet? I think that's also a major discussion that we need to have sometime later, because data is really expensive.
Very expensive.
Very expensive in Nigeria. So what are the other industries you think young people can tap into, Mofe?
If we look at current trends in the past few months, even past few years, we can see there's recent investment by companies outside into the fintech industry. We believe that they are looking at Nigeria as a new avenue for them to invest in. And also, when we look at e-commerce giants, right here, we can see their turnover, the money they make, the volume of transactions they deal in. Those sectors are very important sectors. And the beauty of that sector is that, for instance, if you're a startup, if you have an idea that is based in the technology industry, the barrier of entry is quite low. You don't need as much capital as you can. As long as you have a laptop, internet, and some other things, you can begin an idea and move forward. So the technology and media industry, I say, are sectors that people should look into for development.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah. Amen.
Yes.
Everything the art. So how can we harness the creative industry to do more?
Oh, well, I don't know if you know this, but we have an abundance of creatives in Nigeria. There's actually a fight for quality creatives. So we have creatives, but we need to, I think companies need to start incorporating it into their training. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of technological advances that are happening every day. So when you're hiring an employee, you want to make sure that, can this person also write copy? Can this person also create, proposals for us? Do we need to hire a photographer? Just because you're an oil and gas company, for instance, doesn't mean that you don't need creatives. You're not only going to hire engineers, you're going to need videographers, you're going to need people that can help tell the story. And we have an abundance of that here in Nigeria. So I think the way to harness that is to incorporate it in your training. Companies need to put aside budgets to support those creatives. A lot of companies here do CSR programs. Look to see how you can create programs that support those people. We just finished a conference that we did on Friday called Cultivate. Okay. And in that conference, basically the theme of the conference was creating engines for growth to preserve pipeline integrity. Pipeline integrity in engineering is one thing. That's a little bit of jargon. But what we meant is, for instance, for you in media, what are you doing as an individual and as a company to create a pipeline so that people that are behind you right now in university can come in and do this same job 10 years later? What are you investing back into your communities that would allow these people, what commitments are you making that will allow these people to grow into and fill your shoes?
Yeah.
So I think we have a duty as companies, as individuals, to support the people coming behind and grow that pipeline.
So generally, you're saying we lack a bit of mentorship.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
How
Companies
can we
like
improve on that? Yeah.
companies like Google, for instance, you know, they want to hire more female engineers, and you hear them say things like, "Well, there's not that many in the pipeline." So to find an African woman that's also an engineer, that also works for a top global company, they're going to school for engineering, but maybe they don't have the mentorship to know whether they belong there. A lot of people suffer from imposter syndrome. So we need people to come out and say, yes, I was in your shoes, and I can show you the way. We all need that. We all need a bit of mentorship. No man is an island, and neither do we operate in a vacuum.
Mofe, why do you think we have little or no mentorship?
I believe that the reason for that, we have to look at it from both sides of the conversation or the issue.
Yeah.
For instance, looking at it from the person that wants to mentor someone, from conversations that we've had with clients and everything, they believe that young Nigerians are not serious when it comes to job execution. They believe that because they do not have responsibilities, they don't understand the gravity and what it requires to hold a job. So they don't deliver on deadlines, they don't meet project deliverables and all those things. So they find it hard bringing somebody under their wings and then growing that person. Now, at the other way around, people also believe, people that want to be mentored, also believe that there have been certain barriers and gatekeepers that have been put in particular places in industries that don't allow them to have access to those mentors. So they don't even try, or they don't try well enough to get access to those mentors. And then we see that it's a catch-22 situation.
Wow, that's really fantastic. But the thing is, why do you think the older people do not necessarily, let's come from the part of the younger people who believe that the older people do not want to give them opportunities. They might have some valid reasons, because we've seen a couple of cases where the old people, because of the situation of the country, they just want to sustain a particular level.
Right.
You know what I mean? You see, for example, retirement, you see people increasing their age.
Right.
I'm talking of in government parastatals, in the public service. They manipulate their ages just to make sure that they serve longer and they don't retire on time. So I don't know, what can you say about that habit of trying to sort of, you know, stay longer in a particular position just because of you don't want to retire from that particular position?
Okay, I believe that it has to do with the mindset of the person. Everybody inherently wants to protect his own self-interest, so they definitely do that. However, they begin to lose another part of the conversation, an important topic that we need to face in Nigeria, which is reaping our demographic dividends. We forget that we are made up of a lot of youth, and these youths can help our country grow because they are already becoming a major part of the population, which means that they as a whole can contribute to the development of the country. So when people begin to have this mindset and see things from this angle, I believe that gradually, over time, the conversation and the concept will change.
Fantastic, fantastic. I mean, I know you already said your company is doing a lot to sort of inspire the youth to do more. So moving further, what are your plans?
Well, on the just concluded conference, Cultivar, we got a lot of sponsors. We had Google, we had Enyo Oil and Gas, we had different media partners, MTV Base. We had those partners and the speakers come in, and not just, we didn't want to hear motivational speeches. We didn't want to hear, here's how I got here, I'm awesome. What we wanted was commitments from them on what they were going to do for the people in the audience. They don't owe anybody anything, but I feel that they owe it to their country and also to themselves, because they were once in our shoes.
True.
Where they were starting from the bottom, and they've reached pinnacles of their success where they're now industry leaders. So what we hope to do since the conference on Friday is to continue to harness those relationships, hold them accountable for the promises that they didn't even make promises, they made commitments that they were going to support people. We had people like Lisa Folawiyo, Tokini Peterside was our keynote speaker, Farid Orogudade for Workstation Nigeria. They all made specific commitments to support these youth. And I think that when we do that, it's going to have a snowball effect, and we'll continue to grow that. So that's what our plan is.
Thank you so very much. It's been a pleasure chatting with you guys. I wish you all the best and keep up with the good work.
Thank you.
Of course, if you're out there and you're a youth, make sure you try as much as possible to break out of the mold, and let's make Nigeria great again. I'll be right back.